Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God, the Lord is one. That insight, that flash of understanding, that venture into new consciousness, new awareness, was a keystone in the development of humanity and of human understanding. In the early times, while there was always the sensing, the subliminal awareness that all was life, that the sun rose and it was alive and it gave heat and it gave life, that the crops came in, that the grasses grew, that there was life within everything, and that life did not originate on the earth. The first stirrings of God awareness assign God many names, many identities, many duties. You are the God of war. This is the God of love. This is the God of the harvest. This is the God of the hearth. The vision of God, but in many forms, because that was what appearances would seem to indicate. We are many, we people, we human beings, and we are tall, and we are short, and we are fat, and we are thin, and we are dark, and we are light. We are male, we are female. There are all of these variables supporting the idea of separation, of difference, of individuality. And so we created God as human beings in our own image. Many. Then the understanding. Yes. There was God behind this, behind the sun, behind the harvest. God, always God. But one God. Now, the implications of that awareness are enormous. That one God, as the image grew and spread through the centuries, had many faces, many names, and rivalries among religions. Our God is the one true God. No, I'm sorry, but our God is the one true God. Everyone agreeing that there was one true God, but differing mightily as to who that God might be and who he was in favor of and what he required for his gratification. What was his nature? And in the beginning, the nature of God, even when the vision of a singular God appeared, the nature of God reflected humanity's vision of itself, caught, as always, in the duality of darkness and light, of substance and shadow. And so God was an angry God, as well as a loving God, a rageful, vengeful God, a jealous God, a greedy God. All that we are, God is. And then at the beginning of this passing era, a Messiah was born to bring the message of the singularity of God in such a way that it will be seen that the many are also one. The triune God. God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. But all one. A mystery. How could that be? And the ones that carried that message and that understanding with them fought with the ones who found other prophets of the same God, but with slightly altered visage, slightly different rules. That is the era that you have been living in, life after life, for these last 2,000 years. It matters not whether you are Arab, or Jew, or Christian, or Hindu, it doesn't matter. The vision of the one God is what does matter. How you walk through the door into that understanding matters far less. It has been my work to delineate for you, to shine a flickering light upon the reality of the understanding of the myth, the guiding story of Jesus the Christ, and of a generally Christian viewpoint of the nature of God. There are other voices in other rooms telling a similar story in which the names are slightly changed, but in which the vision is nearly identical, culturally altered so that ears may hear. But the story is the same. Oneness. Oneness. As this new era dawns, that will be the guiding understanding, not simply the oneness of God, but the recognition that humanity is inseparable from God, that all life is inseparable from God, that all is God. That will be a dawning understanding, not springing to life upon a certain date of a certain year, but gradually entering the growing consciousness of humanity. We are one, not just brother and sister, but one and indivisible. The fingers joined to the hand joined to the arm, to the trunk, to the head, to the legs, the body of God. That understanding, as it comes, will lead to the realization of the nature of reality itself in its many forms. The recognition that reality is a jewel of many facets, one facet not less nor more than another, but all a part of the same jewel. Within each human being lives a dozen consciousnesses, aspects of being, of memory, of knowledge, of skill, of habit. All of the ingredients that are those in one human being, multiplied by all of the other human beings, as they link together in consciousness, as a result of having received, accepted that which I call the Christ energy, but that is the unifying energy that releases humanity from bondage to the idea of separation. Separation is equated with loss, isolation, separation from God. That has been the human state throughout all of humanity's history. That is the end of that singular small vision, and the beginning of an awareness that finally will, at the end of this coming age, leave you all fully aware of your Godness. When the fingers move, when the legs walk, they are not separate from the rest of the body. Messages go from the mind to the fingers, nerves connecting the spine, muscles helping the movement to carry out the direction of the mind, all working in harmony. Although one gesture may seem singular, it is a part of the whole. Those characteristics that comprise God are the accumulation of all that is real, all that exists. God is omnipotent. God is omniscient. God is not a bearded fellow on a throne. God is the cumulative awareness and being that brings in all that exists and more because of the potential of creation. All that has been, all that will be, all that can be. You, in your conviction of littleness, in your human lives, have limited yourselves severely in terms of your awareness of your true nature and a consciousness of your true abilities. When you feel yourself separate and different from God, the creatures of God rather than a part of God, when you see yourself that way, lost in the fog, lost in darkness, surrounded by fears, emerging really from the primeval ooze, gradually getting a sense of identification, gradually recognizing each other as fellow creatures, dealing daily with the issues of life and of death, the issues of survival, left you in the early times, little time, to think about your true nature. The issue was one of survival. As time moved forward, you began to think more and more about the questions, who am I and what am I doing here? As time continued to move forward, your answers to those questions became more and more sophisticated and more based upon an emerging understanding of the true nature of things, but only a bit and a piece at a time, because you were still preoccupied primarily with issues of survival, whether physical survival or emotional survival, dealing with fear as it inhabited every sphere of your lives. Fear that broke into every relationship. Fear that influenced every career. Fear that dominated your vision of God and the universe. What a major distraction. Throughout this Piscean age, you have been dealing with those issues. The solution to the mystery of the Piscean age has to do with the acceptance of fear so that it may be swallowed and regurgitated as love. The illusion shattered. The sense of reality filling you and filling all of those spaces previously held by the specter of fear, of inadequacy, of a broken selfhood. Now those spaces are being filled with new energy. Now you will not be so distracted by ghosts, by specters, haunted by the past, fearful of the future, living in a state of survival. I have said in talking to you these years about the emerging new age and the new consciousness, I have very consciously focused upon the end result. Your inheritance as human beings. What the harvest will bring, who you shall be. But I say also to you, in this process of the death of the old self, the death of the ego mind, in that process of relinquishment and transformation, you have just exited the birth canal. When you look at a baby, do you see the adult? You can hypothesize and suppose about the nature of the adult looking at the baby. Well, he looks like He looks like, isn't that Aunt Martha's nose? And he has the inheritance of, well, you remember that Uncle Bill was a university professor, and he probably got a lot of brains from him. And look how easily and well he grasps with his hands. He's going to have excellent motor skills. And look how quick he is to smile. Oh, he's got a sense of humor. You could tell that already. You are hypothesizing, and hopefully, about what will become of this newborn child. You are that newborn child, full of potential, full of inheritance, full of opportunity, full of option, but as yet drooling and soiling your diapers. Only a beginning, but what a glorious beginning. This age that is now passing began with the birth of a child. And that was part of the lesson. The child, born into humble circumstances, the child of God. As you are Christ. That has been the lesson learned over the last 2,000 years. To become Christ. And who is Christ? The child of God. And who are you? The children of God. And yet of God. So now you grow as the Christ child through the stages that will lead you to a oneness with the Godhead itself. A full conscious awareness that you are one with God. What is that going to mean? I have indicated and sketched out some notions of that. How in the absence of fear, you're going to be able to deal with the moving moment so much better. You're not going to be looking back and looking forward. You're going to be living, inhabiting the only time that exists in this frame of understanding, the moment. And as you live in that moment, it expands, and your strength expands to fill it. And you become more and more competent and wise in dealing with your lives and your interaction with others. I have said that in your inheritance of the Christ energy, your acceptance of the grace that allows you to relinquish fear once and for all, you are also psychically, spiritually connecting with each other. That as your own spirit is freed to integrate with the body self, integrate with the emotional, mental self, to become one with the physical self. As these actions take place, so is there a connection enlivened between you and all others who are awakening. Just now, that is a sense of comradeship, a sense of identification, not yet quite the clarity of recognition that when you are looking into another's eyes, you are seeing yourself because you are one. But that will grow from it. I have said that with the inheritance of the Spirit and its full inhabiting of yourselves, that you are also gifted with the talents of the Spirit, the psychic abilities, the so-called extrasensory perceptions. And what that is going to mean in terms of your ability in dealing with each other, with the world, with romance, with all that exists. When you are truly aware on a deep level of the feelings of the others that you are dealing with, your unity with them will become complete. You could no more hurt that other person than yourself. The Bible said, love others as you love yourself. Going on now to say, because they are yourself. You are leaving the age of individuality, separation, and you are entering the age of the communal spirit. Nothing is lost. Everything is enhanced. You still have your own personality, your own being, your own expression, your own talents, your own desires. But you are able, in connecting with each other, first with small cells of like-minded spirits, and finally with all humanity as the evolution continues, as you make these connections, you are also drawing upon the energy and strength of others. You are also able to control your health. Not simply maintain it at a decent level, but enhance it. Extend it. Living as long as you choose to live in a single incarnation. No longer dominated by karma, no longer limited by 70. Now you will learn to reactivate each cell of your body, to renew yourself. This is coming. This is coming. But this is the beginning. And I want to emphasize that because while it is important to recognize your heritage, what you are coming into, it's also important to recognize that you need not expect of yourself the perfection implied in what I am saying. At the full flowering of this dawning age, you will be all of these things and do all of these things. Now you are the baby. Now you must learn. What is this world, this consciousness about? Who am I and what can I do? You are beginning at a new beginning. Experiment. However silly it may seem, play psychic games with each other. Send colors, light. Send numbers and letters. Back and forth, creating new grooves in your mind. Practicing, strengthening the third eye. Being very consciously involved with learning the new lessons. Because the new lessons, unlike the past, are not the lessons of pain and of limitation, but the lessons of expansion and growth and joy as you master a new reality and a new energy. When you are ill or your child is ill, I don't say, well, if they're very sick, don't take them to the doctor, do it yourself. But begin a process with full confidence and full strength. Send energy of healing into that child, into that friend, into that family member. You will learn. The energy is there. The ability is there. Apply it. Apply it daily in large ways and small. When you're leaving for downtown and you're thinking, oh, I hope I can get a parking space, or when you're leaving for here and hoping you'll get a parking space, visualize that space before you leave home. Put it in your mind. Feel yourself driving up, say, oh, here's a space. Practice, practice, practice. If you are to become a master violinist, you must go through the scales daily. And you will be rewarded as the student is rewarded with increasing skill. And pretty soon no one is complaining about the screeching and they're asking you to play a number for them. Your horizons are literally limitless as God is limitless. Your progress through each life that you choose to live during this new era will build upon the progress of the previous life. You will extend a life to say, hey, I'm hot. I'm going to stick around on this life. I'm really doing well. And so you're going to say, well, I'll stay 200 years or so. And then another life comes by, and there's something else you want to learn, something else you want to experience, and you've got it, and you've sucked it dry, and you say, well, that only took about 30 years or so. I think I'll come back again and do something else. I don't mean to be facetious about this. I want to tell you that you are going from the status of slaves to an unknown God into the status of being gods in training yourselves, where you have new abilities, where the fabric of reality will be very different than it has been in the past. Some of what I say to you smacks of fantasy. Oh, well, we could never do that. That's ridiculous. But it's not ridiculous. And you will learn. And particularly now in this life, the life where you turned the corner, turned the page, began the new chapter, much of your advancement is dependent upon you yourself. The abilities are there, barely detectable, but there. Faith, trust in yourself, action on your own behalf, practicing the psychic spiritual abilities, looking within others. Old habits die hard. And you are used to dealing with people, most people, on a pretty superficial basis. Dealing with most situations in a self-protective way. You need in this life to unlearn those practices, so that you find that you are really seeing people. That whether it's a clerk at the grocery store, or a teacher, or a pupil, or a lover, or a parent, you're not going through the rote of dealing with that individual, not really seeing, not really communicating. You are looking at them and into them. You are sensing their energy and their nature. Not just what they look like, but who they are. You have that ability now, and it's beginning to act in you. And it will act whether you practice or not. But if you practice, and if you are conscious in your awareness, you say, I know not only can I do this, but I can do it better. I can see more clearly. I've said to you, you will never be fooled again by anyone. You will know instantly if someone is lying to you, if someone is telling only half the truth. You'll feel it. Trust that feeling. It's true. Because falsehood is a part of the illusion of fear, and you can see through illusion now. You're not seduced by it anymore. No used car salesman is going to pull the wool over your eyes. No man is going to fool you into thinking that he is kind and loving when he is selfish and brutal. No woman is going to fool you into thinking her love is true and eternal while she's seeing someone else on the side. None of these daily kinds of events are going to happen to you anymore if you are paying attention. If you stay within yourself and you don't look at this person, and you're thinking of something else when you're dealing with this person, then they might be able to slip something by you. You wouldn't even notice. Awake, awake, awake. You are just barely tapping the extent of a huge, expanded awareness. And the more you turn to it, and the more you ask from that new awareness, the more it will return to you. The greater the gift will be received. If you want to sell your house, see it sold. See it sold. Invite in the buyers. You have the power. You say in your visualization, here's my home, it's like a gold mine. It glitters, it draws you. You need what this home has. And those who do need what that home has will hear the call and will respond. Now, you say, what if I want something unworthy? Can I create that into reality? Well, you could, but it's a silly sort of an idea because you're not going to want anything unworthy. That is a part of the consciousness that you need to trust in yourself. What you desire will be in harmony with what you truly need and what is good for you. And it doesn't matter whether it's a cheeseburger or a new television set or what have you. If it is appropriate for you and you desire it, you will get it. And if you say, I want this man to sell me this television set for half price, and I'm going to think him into it, well, it's not going to work. And you'll probably wind up with no television set at all because you'll lose the other money. But it's not going to happen Because that which you have accepted into your heart and into your being, that which has allowed you to release the fear that has dominated all of your lives, that energy isn't interested in any phony baloney. That energy doesn't want what isn't right and good and fair. That energy cannot think a thought that is not loving. And you look at yourself and say, I still, perhaps a little... Ghosts! You're just born! The past is still strong in your memory. But be awake. Be alert. Live a life that is loving to yourself. Learn to receive the bounty of God as it is presented to you. Joyfully, not guiltily. Well, I don't really deserve it, but I'll take just one if you're not going to do anything else with it. If you're going to throw it out anyway, I'll have it. You need to stop that way of thinking. As I've said many times, receiving is much more difficult to learn about than giving, because giving is so approved of. I'll give you the shirt off my back. And then everyone will say, oh, look at that wonderful person. He gave that person the shirt off his back. What about the person who took the shirt off his back? Nobody likes him. You need to be willing to take the shirt off somebody's back if they offer it to you and you need it. It is a new reality, a new consciousness, a new way of looking at things, a new trust in yourself, a new understanding of the world that you move in. Much of it now is chaotic. You can't verbalize it. You can't see it clearly. You're aware within that a change, a very fundamental change, has taken place. You're aware that you're dealing with things a bit differently. You're aware that you're not so fearful now. You're aware that you can really get what you want if you really want it, and you know that it's right for you to have it. You have learned to love yourself. Not completely, not perfectly, but you've rounded the corner. You've been reborn. And now you learn how to live in this new reality. And it starts today. Not off in the future. Today you give up the old patterns. And if tomorrow they're back again, then you give them up again in that today. Be patient and loving with yourself. Nothing you have learned deeply is discarded easily, however bad for you it may be. Be kind. As kind as you are to yourself, you will be that kind to others. It is when you have a dismal vision of yourself that vision extends to the rest of the world. I am a victim, and the rest of you are all victimizers, actual or potential. That kind of thinking has dominated this Piscean age. It is typically, purely, the negative aspect of Pisces. I am a victim. Crucify me. But what's the next step? I am triumphant. Crucifying me didn't stop me. I am reborn. This is the age of the rebirth. Of assuming the mantle of the child of God. Of becoming finally whole. Of enjoying the delight of sharing without fear. I can share completely with you because I know you're not going to stab me in the back. You're not going to pick my pocket. You're not going to steal my wife, my husband, my dog. You are my friend. You are more than my friend. You are myself in a wonderful new variation. And how I delight in the you-ness of you. And the me-ness of me. This is not hyperbole. This is the dawning reality. And you need to remind yourselves and each other of it every day. Because the world around you will deny it and deny it and deny it in their dying breath. You are birth in the midst of death. Triumph, surrounded by defeat. Celebrate every day the dawn of vision and the oneness with God that is the gift that you've received. the greatest gift ever offered to you, and you said, okay, I'll take it. What? Me? Okay, I will, I'll take it. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. And I emphasize this because it's going to be hard some days to celebrate. You're still living with your little light in a world full of shadow. The crash and bang of the dinosaurs dying can be very distracting. And so you need a ritual in your life, preferably the first thing in the morning, or if you're a hopeless basket case, the first thing in the morning, then the last thing at night. Where within yourself, and if you are fortunate enough to be living with others who are awakening, within that circle, have a ritual of celebration. It doesn't need to be any big thing, but a reminder to yourself that this is the dawning of the most beautiful day ever created. And finally you are whole. And finally nobody's going to defeat you or limit you or say, no, no. It is your world, filled with opportunity. And you are just the person to take advantage of that opportunity. Pat yourselves on the back. You won't break an arm. You deserve congratulations. You deserve to celebrate. You need to emphasize the joy that is there for the taking. Within a few years, so much more will have changed in the world around you and within yourself that in a way you will begin to simply accept that matter-of-factly, the fact that you are so expanded. You'll still celebrate, but the present won't be as new. Enjoy the gift when it's new. Bright and shiny, just out of the package you. Play with it. Share it. You'll never experience another moment like this. There'll be many triumphs, step by step up the ladder of understanding. A great glow of satisfaction growing as you continue to integrate one with the other and within yourselves and with God. But never again will you have this moment of birth, the flower that springs to light in the midst of a battlefield. Never again will you have such wonderful cause to celebrate. Now, go ahead and ask questions.
I've got something that relates a lot to what you've been talking about. I quit my job early last week. I've been planning to quit my job, but I quit extra early. And it's just been great. I felt so good and feel so easy with flowing with my own nature. I guess I've had so many times in my life when I've tried to start a business on my own, and it's never worked before. And I guess it feels like it's going to work this time.
Yes, it's the difference between trying and doing. You don't have to try anymore. You're simply going to do it now. And there'll be days when it feels like trying, but remind yourself that there's no trying involved. You are in harmony with the timing. This is the right time. You're the right person. This is the right opportunity. You're going to make the right moves. And on those days when you wonder, well, was that the right move or not, that's when the faith takes action. I trust this process. I traveled a long road to get here and to be me now. Not in vain. And if the answer to a question isn't there before me today, it will be tomorrow or the next day. But it will be there, and it will be the perfect answer. The difference now is working without fear. Will the landlord foreclose? Will the customers show up? Will the money go away? What will happen? You don't worry about it anymore. You will, but remind yourself each time you think, oh dear, now how about will I be able to meet the payroll? You say, well, that's right, I don't have to worry about that. What I need will be at hand. That is my birthright. It's not some wonderfully generous gift from an indulgent God. It is there for me.
I just have a question. In the last couple of weeks, I've really been dealing with headaches, which is something I've had for my whole life, and it goes away for months at a time. I'm kind of frustrated by it. I had a really great weekend where I didn't have headaches. No.
Yes. I would suggest that in your meditation that you would spend some time directing the energy, and what we'll call it the white light energy, the energy of Christ that enters through the crown chakra. Take that energy and direct it down into your into the base of your neck and into your shoulder blades, feeling a relaxation, feeling light entering and shadow departing. There is some congestion there that is felt to a degree there, but that is felt higher up, more prominently. That's one thing, is to direct, to address directly the issue of the pain. The other is to recognize that pain is not yet completely done with you. You're still living in human form, and you're living in a body that has been through the struggle for a while. I'm feeling that these headaches are not going to be a continuing factor in your life. That on a spiritual basis, there's been so much frustration as a trigger for the headaches. Further, on a physiological basis, they are related to pressure changes in the atmosphere. You are going to gain increasing mastery over this on that physical basis, and the frustration factor is going to be disappearing pretty rapidly. So I think that's going to lighten the load quite soon. I would say it's likely that by midsummer that these will be a thing of the past. You might consider, if you are interested in acupuncture also.
How about biofeedback?
Well, that's really a lot of what we're talking about when we talk about this visualization, is feeling, and then the reality following the feeling. So you say, I feel perfect, I feel good, I feel that the headache is gone, and so the body says, whoa, wait, the headache is gone, I better turn it off.
Paul, along that same line, there's several others of us that have also been experiencing headaches the last few weeks, and I'm not normally prone to headaches.
Yes.
So I wondered if you could comment.
Well, as I've said before, these changes that take place, they're not imaginary, nor do they exist exclusively upon the spiritual level. There are physical changes taking place in the self. The energy of the earth is changing. The energy of humanity is changing. One age is passing into another. I imagine there were quite a few headaches a couple of thousand years ago, too. That when there is this enormous shift of energy within you, and as I said before, there are changes taking place on the molecular level within you. There are adjustments going on, all of them positive in outcome. For some of you, there may be structural adjustments. The body wants to perfect itself, you see, and now the body consciousness is also inhabited by the spirit. And this will become more clear as time goes on, and that integration of body self and spirit self is more completed. But even now, the body says, I can do something about this imbalance. And whether it's an organic imbalance or a structural imbalance or what have you, the body starts to work to bring balance where it has been lost. Again, you can increase that by joining with your mind-spirit combination into the body-spirit combination and creating a full team action on those changes. So now, as far as energy changes, they come in waves, as I've said many times, and there's a wave been breaking, let's say, over the earth and within all of the systems of energy for the last 6 weeks, and it is now past its fullness. and beginning to recede. The next such wave is going to be felt in late in April into May. That one is not going to be as profoundly felt as this one, because really the energy you have been feeling is specifically Aquarian energy, and it is so different. You know, everyone has felt Aquarian energy. You feel it every time, every month, every day. There's shifts and changes, but this is a shift and change of an age, and where the predominating energy changes from Piscean energy into Aquarian energy. They are very, very different, and these adjustments have their effects on all systems. So that's been a major shift over the last few weeks, and that will be modified, altered, added to at regular intervals, but not so. It'll be a while before there's anything as powerful as this has been.
Plautus, seems our American society has this addiction to beating each other, you know, beat the other guy syndrome tied in with dismal. And sports is sort of kind of instilling and representing that same thing with winning is the only thing attitude. Do you see that shifting and changing along with?
Yes, because attitudes are shifting, and it's not that there will be no competition. Competition is human, and it's not a negative. What is negative is thinking that, as you indicate, winning is the only thing worth striving for. It is similar to the overall schema that's taking place, in which we say to you, the process is what is important, not the goal. Well, you've been goal-oriented all these many years, and now we say it's the journey, not the destination. Pay attention. And so it is in competitive matters. There will be war no more, but there's likely to be football or baseball or some equivalent to that, where there can be competition, because it is very human and will continue to be human to wish to compete. But it will be the process of competition and the joy and the exhilaration of competition, not so much the outcome. And if a game then is well played, the quote loser is going to feel as good about it as the quote winner, because they will have ceased to become goal oriented and they will have enjoyed the process.
Paul, you mentioned that the new age would be reaching its flowering sometime from now, but you never really let us know when that would be.
Well, we're talking about, again, a 2,000-year period of time. The Piscean age did not come into full flowering until it was about half over. Because the rules have changed, and because the leaps of consciousness are much more rapid, chiefly because the specter of fear will no longer be present. The duality, without the duality, reality is going to change considerably. So the full flowering is going to really be much of this coming age. I would say, though, that the transitional period, the infancy, it's more like a couple of 100 years of testing and changing, of the gradual redesigning of the world to reflect the new consciousness. Always the institutions of humanity reflect the changing consciousness of humanity. This is such an extraordinary and complete change, ending one process and beginning another, that the institutions are going to have to A, be destroyed rather rapidly, which is taking place, and B, be rebuilt in the new image rather rapidly. And so that's probably going to take a couple of 100 years for that process to be pretty much complete. There's still going to be growth on many fronts. There will be those who reach their full awareness before others do. There will be institutions that will be changed appropriately sooner and others later. So if we're talking flowering, I would still say the flowering would be well beyond 200 years, but to have the system pretty decently in place, probably about 200 years.
Paul, can you give me an allegory or describe in some way how my progress in my music, what it will be like in the next year?
Revised, what I am seeing is you stepping back, looking at what is looking, feeling, sensing, what has been created, the direction you have been going in, and beginning to make course alterations. At first, a radical course operation, probably in the summer of this year, most likely toward August, and then minor course corrections. I think what we're looking at here is a dawning of inspiration based upon the expansion of consciousness. Suddenly a new perspective enters the picture. You say, oh, why didn't I ever see that? Of course, this is the direction to go. So what I see is about perhaps up to a 90-degree turn and then minor shifts as things move forward. So what I would say to you now is simply open yourself to speculation, to imagination, to recreation, to throwing all of your a prioris up for grabs. So it's a time of receiving the cues and the clues that will allow you to see and feel differently and move more smoothly into the changes that are coming.
Is it likely that I'll be going to Spain then? And
I guess that's Spain. Is this like flamenco or dance? Or I'm seeing figures dancing.
No, it's singing.
But is it emotive?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that's likely, but it doesn't look imminent. It doesn't look like it's next week, next month. I think you're going to get information probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks that's going to clarify much of what I'm talking about now, relating to travel, relating to the music. So there's nothing to push now. Let the timing meet your action.
Paul, I've been kind of feeling sluggish, more in my spirit than physically, although physically also. And I feel like I'm real bogged down, but I feel like things are going to turn around a little bit. But could you just give me some feedback on that?
Routine dulls the spirit. Limitation on action dulls the spirit. A long winter dulls the spirit. It must be understood that spring is so often thought of as that time of revival, not simply because gardens begin to grow, but because a new light shines. The world has gone through its old age and its death, and now it's to be reborn. When you are at the end of a winter cycle, particularly in this kind of climate, where the aspects of winter are so exaggerated, then you are also likely to feel that sluggishness and that sort of reduction in consciousness and so forth naturally. That not everybody does, but most people do to one degree or another. So part of it is simply that. Another is what I see, the image is you in a paper bag trying to fight your way out of it. And the time imminent where the first tear appears in the paper bag. Well, there's really nothing tougher than trying to fight your way out of a paper bag until the bag tears. When the bag tears, it's very easy to complete the tear. I would say that tear is coming up in Gemini and is going to be a very liberating experience for you. I do not see any physical cause, rather it's simply a physical response to an emotional, spiritual condition. There needs to be this refreshing, this new lightning stroke, the bursting of the paper bag, and that, as I say, Gemini, late May through most of June, somewhere in that space of time, is likely to be this personal shift. Go ahead.
Is this just a personal type shift, or is it a work-related shift, or?
I think it's work-related. Personal, certainly, but having its probably its most profound effect in the work area. It is entirely connected with what I've been talking about, the new influx of energy and its effect upon you over the last several weeks. But it is also individual because you are you, and it will have its effect then based upon your needs. And it seems to me that there is a need for a shake-up there in that area. There's someone in that scene that's, well, maybe it's you. There's someone in the way there. I think it is you. I think it's you. I think you need to, of your own accord and of your own will, smash something existent that no longer or never has nurtured you, fed you, excited you. I want to say to all of you, don't put up with things. If something is boring to you and has been boring for a while and looks likely to remain boring, then then do something else. The thing that's locked most humanity into boring or unpleasant, repetitious kinds of situations has been the fear of change. Better the devil I know than the unknown. Well, I say with the banishment of fear, there is no longer an excuse for remaining in an untenable or less than desirable situation. We've been taught all of these centuries to put up with. Well, it's my I have all these responsibilities and duties, and so I'm just going to put up with the fact that my soul is dying a little every day. And you don't have to do that anymore. You never did have to, but you responded to the dictates of fear and conservatism, and, the sensible thing to do is to stay exactly where I am and become covered with cobwebs. So I say to all of you, as I've said all along, be bold, be bold. You've got nothing to lose. You literally have nothing to lose, because you will not lose. You will acting in your own best interests will not hurt you or those who are deeply involved with you. A liberation for you is a liberation for all. What I'm seeing is a great flood. It is like an untamed river that needs dams and needs channels carved. It is a raw thing that needs refining. It is a powerful thing that needs directing. So I'd say it's exactly where it should be, in the sense that it is always better to deal with that flood and channel it and refine it than to take a trickle and try to turn it into a flood. So I would say that by fall is probably in September is the time when there's going to be a great sense of accomplishment, leap forward sort of feeling.
I've had this self-doubt for a while, and I'm going to be needing some sort of more permanent position, work, that is.
Yes.
Do you have any these?
Well, I think that what you think you want is not what you want. That it is that vestige of common sense that is too often used as a mask for fear and lack of self-trust. To you particularly, I say, be in the moment, live in the process, enjoy the process. Don't worry about where it's taking you or where your next meal is coming from. You need very much to live on the crest of the wave right now. Not to say that you won't, in the future, have a more stable and expectable income and situation. But right now is not the time to try to force such a matter into existence. That the times will be more, and you will be more harmonious with that kind of stabilization next year. This year, I would say, what's your birthday?
July 14th.
Yes. This year, up until your birthday, is definitely, this is not the time to try to create something stable. After your birthday, in your new birth year, the first part of the year is going to be a more meaningful looking around, ascertaining of options. And I think what I'm seeing here is that work, career-oriented situations are going to be changing first subtly and then more obviously after the birthday. And the result of those changes is going to be a new direction that you wouldn't and couldn't have now. New options opening. Now you look and there's nothing to choose from. Then there will be a good deal of clarity as to what to choose, because it's going to be in your face. So I would say, don't worry about it. Live these next few months as you have been, and living in the moment, living day to day, enjoying the process. And events are going to take place that are going to allow you to focus your attention and your choices after the birthday. And certainly not immediately after, but that new access to energy and event is going to be beginning then, and probably within 2-3 months of that time, you're going to be riding off in a new direction, and then by the time that year completes itself, midway in 1992, then you will be established in a more permanent, stable kind of situation. But you still need to ride the bronco for a while. And don't worry about it. It's a nice old horse, and it won't buck you off.
My doll work and theater work are going well, but I've been kind of uncomfortable about my finances and also handling the business part of what I'm doing, the management of it. And while I've had some creative success, I'm feeling like I'm just sort of hiding out in my apartment in a way.
That's going to end very soon. And I want to say this, that you underestimate at the same time, you underestimate your own abilities in terms of business at the same time that you overestimate the hazards. What I need to say here is that the business aspects of your work do not need to be nearly as complex or daunting as they seem to you now. Reduce their importance in your own mind. You make a mountain out of a molehill in this area because of your lack of confidence in your ability to handle money. You are beginning now to be aware that you deserve it, that it's not an enemy that you must try to control and dole out and be very careful with. You needed to have all of this shaking up to break down old old images that you have had regarding yourself and your relationship to money. Now, we've known each other for a few years here, and this has been a continuing concern of yours, and I say to you that the solution is to stop looking for a solution, that the anxiety creates its own obstacles, and that you are going to have a much more harmonious relationship with money as this time moves forward, and you don't need to look at it as being some separate issue. It is simply going to take its proper place and perspective in your life. So, and the other work, the creative work, yes, you've freed yourself considerably creatively, and build on that. Build on that. That should be your focus anyway. Take your attention off the money situation. It'll be there when you need it in sufficient quantities, but less so at this stage of your development if you focus on it, because by focusing on it you trigger into wakefulness all of the old goblins and things that go bump in the night. So I say focus on the creation. Be the God who creates. God, believe me, has never worried about getting a paycheck.
An additional question. Does it look like a time to think about leaving my apartment or selling it?
It looks like the time to leave your apartment or sell it, not to think about it. Go ahead and do it. You need a new setting for yourself, a new emotional setting, a new environment, and that will help you mark the break with the past. And what you will find will be more a reflection of who you are becoming than who you have been. There's no time limit on that. You could start right away.
Even though there are so many of those for sale.
That doesn't matter.
I have a question about, I went to Madison this weekend, and I just have so many emotions about going there. It's so much a part of my past and yet my present kind of all mixed up. I wondered if you could just comment on my connection with that place.
It's good to be, you're going back to it now soon?
I went back last weekend.
All right. Sort of hail and farewell, or revisiting the scene of the crime, or touching base, look at it any way you want, because it's a bit of all of those things. There is, first I would say about the city itself and the atmosphere of the place, there is an energy there that is a very powerful energy, and it's it's the kind of energy that creates allegiances, love, ongoing connections. Your connection with that place will never be broken or ended. That doesn't mean you should move there.
No, I don't want to.
No, it is. Yes, and that's the way it should be. There isn't a lot I could say about it, except that it is a sort of lodestar for you. It's the place you go to recharge and to reconnect, and that's what it's good for you.
Will I be finding a new voice teacher this year? And if so, what type of where would I find that voice teacher, and can you describe that voice teacher?
Yes, probably not until fall, or somewhere in that vicinity. Male, I would say on the slim side with smooth hair, dark hair, smooth. And there is an emphasis in the visualization that I am seeing. I see him reaching here into your power center, diaphragm. I don't know precisely what that means, except that that's going to be the focus, is going deep into your own power center, singing from that center, creating from that center. And for some reason, he's going to be more attuned to that.
Well, I've been having some eye problems recently. And
I don't see pain.
no, I was in a car accident in December, and I started seeing kind of a gray area that I had problems seeing through. And I've been to a specialist, and they can't find anything with that. But and my sense is that it's going to dissolve. And
yes, what I see is like the reverberation of a gong. If you hit a gong, and finally, you can't hear it anymore. It's still reverberating, and finally, the reverberation will stop. And it's similar to that. It's as though a gong had been struck, and you're still getting the reverberations, but it's fading.
Okay.
It's a trauma response.
The other question I had in that area, though, was when I did go to the specialist, he always insists on putting drops in my eyes and then checking the pressure, and he feels the pressure is high, but I feel as though it's a reaction to the drop. Anesthesia he puts in my eyes, and
yes.
So my sense is that that's not an issue. He doesn't see any damage or anything.
No, I don't either. Everyone has a different reaction to, your chemical, electrical energy system. And with one person, you put a drop of something in, it'll have a certain effect, and generally you'll see that it has the same effect, but then there's going to be somebody that has a different effect on. And I don't see the hardening that would set off an alarm button.
Tell me the significance of Ishi, the person whose story we've been presenting and working on, and that has brought so many people together in my life.
The breath of life, the fundamental breath of life. You're dealing with the roots, and in dealing with the roots from that direction, you're also reinvigorating your own roots. There are many names, many identities. People will seek the same outcome through many different means, and this for you is very appropriate, dealing with the mythic and dealing with the root of human consciousness. And I would say that's probably not going to be an ongoing study or involvement, but that it's a seed planter, and it's very good for awakening and getting new perspectives.
Plautus, I had a question relating to something you brought up your last Monday lecture, that certain events are usually can be faded as a part of the structure you set up for that you come into life with.
Yes.
Could you maybe comment on that? I also heard it described as like you set up, there's a blueprint for your life that you set up before you come into into existence. Although with the probability and that kind of thing.
Yes, I don't like the blueprint image so much because it gives the impression of a great deal of more detailed planning ahead than there actually is. The structure of your life, let us say, is supported by columns, but there aren't many of them. Those columns are the faith. And within and between and around the columns is your area of free will. You make certain decisions before you were born into an incarnation. It's not willy-nilly, it's not chaotic. You say, here I am in my stage of development. All right, and this, of course, is much simplified, but nonetheless, the outcome is as though you had said to yourself and to God and your guides and so forth, well, here's where I am. I think it's time for me to deal with this issue as it shows itself in terms of loss of the sensation of loss, experience of loss, for example. And in order to do that, I need certain factors, triggering factors. I need, as the author plans a structure to the novel, I need a beginning and an ending, and I'll fill in the rest. I'll create the structure, but I need certain facts to build upon. And so you will have those. You might say that the choice of the mother and the father is fated. You might say that a life-changing event is fated, that it had to be there in some form. Perhaps not the form itself hadn't been detailed, but there had to be, for example, a column of fate that created a certain shift of direction, or the opportunity to shift direction, because you still have free will. But there are certain events in the life that must take place for the life to fulfill itself, for the plan to be completed. I don't emphasize them. In fact, I only bring them up when they are thick on the ground, as they have been now for so many human beings, because this is the completion of a particular book. And so you are seeing certain matters that are purely fated and that everyone will deal with in a different way. I don't emphasize it because the true center of life and the most important thing for the soul to deal with is free will. And the right to choose, the right to apparently fail, though there is no failure. There are simply more roundabout ways of getting places. Enough said.
Does karma always have to be completed before a person can reach the stage of no fear?
Yes, karma is a function of the duality, of the fear and love dichotomy. And yes, in a sense, it must be completed, must be balanced. Well, all through my work here, I've talked about balance, that's your goal. To bring balance within yourself, and therefore balance in your relationship with others. And by bringing balance, you end karma. By accepting the grace of Christ, that new energy, you put the seal on the ending of karma. Bam! That's done, that chapter. Karma is not forever. Karma is for the duality, and now that is completed. Others are still involved with karma at this point, and others are in the actions of completing it.
What happens if the two people that are related in this karma aren't along at the same level in their development?
That's a very good question. All right, let us simplify it to that extent. Let's say there are these two individuals who have karmic matters between them. And the one individual reaches a point where karma is balanced. Well, if the other individual is still holding on to the pain, still holding on to the sense of being cheated, or however the karmic imbalance is being felt, that person will deal with those issues, but he'll deal with them with other people and other circumstances. Karma is not tied inextricably to this individual vis-a-vis this individual. It is they are issue-oriented that may briefly attach themselves to this person, or maybe for a long time, over many lives. There may be a connection between two enacting an imbalance. But if one of those people disappears, and of course you don't live every life with the same cast of characters, someone else takes the place and plays the role for her good as well as your own. So karma can be satisfied, in short, even when one of two people involved in a karmic situation doesn't get it. So perhaps one more question. Everyone thinks, is my question important enough to be the last one? Apparently not. We will draw this reading this evening to a close, and thank you all for your attention, and bid you welcome into a world of joy and expansion, and don't forget it.
Thank you.